Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert.
Here.
Mr. Detzel.
Here.
Mr. Yoshimura.
Here.
Ms. Detzel. Mr. Teetsort.
Here. Board will approve a motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, or compensation of a public employee official or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, public employee, or official. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the motion to move into executive session as listed.
Second. There's a motion and a second to break and go into executive session. This will be a brief executive session, and then we'll return and continue the meeting right after that with our agenda. So you are welcome to sit here and wait for us. It should only be a couple minutes. Motion passed 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're good. Hey, Jack, how's it going?
Having a motion to come back to executive session.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. So we go into the next item. So tonight we have a special recognition.
At this time, Dustin Gehring will come up and start with the introductions.
Good evening, everyone. It's always an exciting time when we get a chance to honor our staff, and tonight is no exception to that. We have some very special teachers, and to introduce those, I'd like to welcome up Sarah McMullen, who's our reading coach for the school district. Let's give her a big round of applause and welcome her. Absolutely.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about a few of our outstanding teachers tonight. Tonight we're going to recognize 4 of our teachers, all members of the Literacy Leadership Team, who were nominated for the 2020 Excellence in Education Award. This award is hosted by the Cincinnati Association and the schools of the School of Education at Mount St. Joseph University, Northern Kentucky University, the University of Cincinnati, and Xavier University, and they continue their long tradition of honoring outstanding Cincinnati area educators. To be a candidate for the C3 award, this recognizes that Greater Cincinnati area teachers who demonstrate excellence in education through their strong content knowledge, their use of innovative teaching methods that enable all students to learn. They also, our recipients must be able to collaborate well with their colleagues and serve in leadership roles, along with being active in their community. So tonight, I would like to invite the building principals up to share why each of our teachers here are so deserving of this nomination. We're going to start with Ame Murray from the Houston Early Learning Center. She's going to recognize Jane Sayers.
Good evening. I'd like to share with you a letter that was written by Rachel Barnes. And Rachel Barnes is a K-5 literacy coach here at Northwest. It is my honor to nominate Ms. Jane Sayers from Houston Early Learning Center in the Northwest Local School District for the Outstanding Educator Award for 2020. Ms. Sayers has been an intervention specialist for 10 years. In those 10 years with the Northwest Local School District, she has served as the building lead. She has served on the district MTSS committee, and in the role of the building lead, she has built strong relationships with her staff. While working on the MTSS committee, she has shared her expertise in the areas of assessment and instruction for learners of all ability levels with her colleagues. As a member of the district literacy leadership team, Ms. Sayers has shown her commitment to her colleagues, students, and her own learning. As a member of the literacy leadership team, Jane spends time learning new strategies and techniques for reading, for writing, thinking, speaking, listening, and learning and implementation in her classroom with her students. She has stepped into a leadership role by leading or building staff in a professional learning environment, especially on our PD days. The feedback from the sessions has been very positive from teachers, instructional assistants, and from administration. Teachers look to Jane as a mentor. She knows the importance of relationship building and models effective, positive communication with her administrators, students, families, and colleagues. She is a resident educator mentor for two of our teachers there at Houston, and she's currently, what else can I say, Jane? My goodness. Jane, you deliver rigorous and engaging lessons to meet the needs of all your students. Your structured hands-on lessons are designed so that all students are able to access learning. As a literacy coach, as in Rachel's words, I have seen how Jane has modified the general ed curriculum for her special needs students based on many instructional techniques and technologies. Jane, thanks for all you do and continue to do for our students at Houston.
Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Casey Schurz to talk about Victoria Case.
Hello, and thank you for having us tonight. This is great when we get to talk about our staff members and all of the great things that are going on in our building. So thanks again for having us. I am also going to read a letter from Ms. Barnes and then Ms. Boys, one of Ms. Case's colleagues. So Ms. Case has been an educator for 10 years and with Northwest Local School District for 2 years. She is a general education music teacher for K-3 students as well as band and orchestra for our 4th and 5th grade students at Pleasant Run Elementary, where her love for music and her compassion for students is evident. Victoria has been an active participant in both building level teams and district teams. At the building level, she has served on our PBIS team. She has been on the building leadership team as well. Victoria has served on the district's diversity committee. She has also done stuff with our district's literacy team. As a member of the district literacy leadership team, Ms. Case shows her commitment to her colleagues, her students, and her own professional learning. As a member of the literacy leadership team, Victoria spends time learning new strategies and techniques for teaching reading, writing, thinking, and speaking and listening. She has stepped into this leadership role by leading our District K-12 Special Areas Professional Learning Group. The feedback from those sessions have been very positive from both teachers and administrators. As a literacy coach, Ms. Barnes states that I've seen how Victoria has stepped up to take a lead and show her flexibility and responsiveness to the group she has been teaching. She is willing to try new techniques and strategies, not only with her students, but with the adults as well. Being in those meetings with Ms. Case, it's been great to see her work hands-on with her colleagues in a leadership role and even step up into situations where things have gotten a little bit downtime in some of those meetings, and her taking some approaches to try a new strategy that she's even learned. So it's been great to see her leadership. So thank you for that. And that part of that is my words and Ms. Barnes' words. So this is from one of her colleagues, another music teacher in our building, Ms. Sarah Boys. She states, "My name is Sarah Boys. I am a music educator in the Northwest Local School District. I would like to nominate an outstanding educator that works with me at Pleasant Run Elementary. I'm nominating Victoria Case for this outstanding honor. Ms. Case goes above and beyond with her students at Pleasant Run Elementary. She teaches kindergarten through 5th grade and works with over 900 students in a 6-day rotation. Saying that she is relentless in her pursuit for excellence in education would be an understatement. Our district has a relentless focus on literacy, and Ms. Case is on the district committee for that campaign. She is one of a few special area teachers to participate on this committee. Along with this committee, she has planned, prepared, and taught 3 days of staff development to our special area teachers throughout the district. She has given numerous practical tools for incorporating more literacy in our music classes, art classes, and physical education classrooms. In her classroom, I have observed Ms. Case teach music lessons, and I am always amazed how she seamlessly incorporates reading, writing, and grammar into her lessons. Through district instruction and practice, students in her music class are reinforcing their language skills without even knowing that they're doing so. The students, young and old, they believe that they're in there just having fun. Victoria is most deserving of this award, and I am proud to have her as a close colleague and a teacher leader. She embodies all of the qualities of the outstanding educator and would be a great ambassador for this honor. Thank you for considering Ms. Case for this prestigious honor, and I echo both of those sentiments, so congratulations. Thanks again.
Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations.
Next, we'd like to honor Susan Houchin, and I'd like to invite Mr. Kevin Gale from White Oak Middle School.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to recommend Ms. Susan Houchin as our Cincinnati Excellence in Education Award. I've had the privilege of working with Ms. Houchin in 2 different roles. First as a teacher way back when, and then the past 3 years as an instructional coach for White Oak Middle School. And it's been a pleasure working with her for all those years. She is an asset to our students, to our parents, our staff, and our community. At White Oak Middle School, she was, in fact, earned the distinction of being named the PTA Teacher of the Year in the 2016 and 17 school year. So that's another testament to what great work she's done at White Oak. Ms. Houchin is an accomplished student-centered teacher and instructional coach. She truly exemplifies the belief that all students and staff can learn. She has assisted in enabling students to achieve this each and every day. Her work shows respect for the dignity of each student and their parents and their staff members. To ensure the best possible learning environment, she consistently goes above and beyond what is expected by filling the gap anytime she is needed at White Oak Middle School. Mrs. Houchin has an excellent work ethic and models this day in and day out. She works hard to ensure all students and staff learn. She ensures that all details are taken care of and that she is well prepared every day. Mrs. Houchin spends many hours of her own time working on curriculum. She willingly coordinates math curriculum for the secondary level. She's also an active member of the district literacy leadership team, and she also serves as our building leadership team. In addition, she steps in to fill the gap when administrators are out of the building during the day. Mrs. Houchin has shown that she is a lifelong learner, always striving to stay current with best practices in education. She seeks to improve her instruction and also that of the entire staff of White Oak Middle School. Mrs. Houchin has proven to be a valuable asset. It is therefore a great pleasure to recommend her for the Excellence in Education Award for Greater Cincinnati. So congratulations, Susan Houchin.
also we have Mr. Sean Gillian from Northwest High School and Mrs. Susan Smith.
I'm going to talk about Mr. Gillian. Sarah McMullen and I, when we were speaking of who we should nominate from our school, pretty much at the same time, we both said Sean should be nominated. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all the things that Sean does in our building. For the past 7 years, I've worked in the position at Northwest High School, and I've gotten to know Sean, but we knew each other way before that. I was an English teacher at Chlorine High School when we first met, so we were talking about we've probably known each other 15 or 16 years now. Sean's a member of our literacy leadership team. He's a building leader in technology, even though he thinks that's not one of his strengths. He's a College Credit Plus instructor through Sinclair University. He serves on our district insurance committee. Most recently, he added the very fun job of being a credit recovery instructor to his resume, which is probably his favorite role that he plays in our building. Ha ha. He also informally mentors and also collaborates with countless staff members. Part of the commitment of the LLT is to present to colleagues strategies to improve the frequency at which literacy is used in classrooms. Presenting to peers is not easy, but Sean is extremely capable and engages the audience when presenting. He's an educator that his colleagues respect and admire. He leads by setting an example, he exercises humility, and his patience is one of his many strengths. Sean has great rapport with all types of students, and he often is the one teacher our at-risk students are willing to respect and work for. He works really well with colleagues to problem solve and plan instruction. He recently, out of just being who he is, started a writer's workshop. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school, anybody who wants to write or wants help with writing or is working on scholarships, just out of the goodness of his heart, he stays after school twice a week to work with these students. Because Sean has such a strong passion for the profession of teaching and because he is continually searching for methods to improve instruction, he's a lifelong learner. He recently decided to pursue a TESOL endorsement to work with students who have English as a second language. And this program is very, very intense. He has a strong knowledge of content, he understands the importance of assessments and using data, and his communication skills are excellent. It is important for me as a principal to have veteran staff members who will help initiate change, who are willing to be reignited through our initiatives, and that has happened with literacy and Sean this year. So I am honored to present him with this nomination. Sean, if you'll join us.
So one of the things I learned from my mentor, President Pam, is there's a lot that goes on behind the efforts that the folks that won were recognized tonight. A lot of families go without their loved ones at home because they're doing extra things. So I would like to have each of the teachers introduce their families to us, and we want to thank them as well.
My wife's a teacher at Whitlow, and to get from down there to up here and deal with our students, they couldn't get over here, so.
Well, tell her we said
Yes,
thank you.
tell her we said thank you.
This is my son Theo, he's 4. This is my daughter Catherine, who's 2. My mom Nancy, and then my other 2 get basketball practice at 5. My husband Jonathan, and my son Jack and Nicholas.
Great, thank you.
This is my husband and my son and my sister. I used to marching band as well, so they don't get to see me half the year. Great people stay with us.
Do we need to do an introduction for you guys?
So my family's not here either. My fiance is working, and I am an empty nester, so my boys are in the Dayton area and in Hudson, so they weren't able to make it either.
Great. Anyone else? Thank you so much. What an honor to recognize all of you this evening. Thank you so much. Next agenda item are legislative updates. Are there any legislative updates?
So all the legislative updates that I have would be surrounding Ed Choice, and I think I'm going to defer that to Mr. Bowling later in the meeting. He's going to address what's been going on with Ed Choice lately.
I would just like to make the comment that I was up in Columbus on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week. Sat in on the House of Representatives where they were discussing the Ed Choice and made a vote on it. It was 82 to 7. It was kind of, I just never expected that many people voting for it. And then basically what it does is it sends it back over to the Senate. Senate then will get together and caucus and come up with their version. And then they send it back to the House of Reps. So they're hopefully going to get something in the middle of what I'm sure Todd's going to talk about later. But it was kind of interesting just to sit up there and listen to the comments and see how it all runs.
Okay. The only thing I have to add on that is, I don't know if Todd was going to mention this or not, but Waycross interviewed Senator Blessing on Friday, and they're going to have their Columbus report is going to release sometime today. I don't know, may have been while we're here, but that'd be something to keep an eye out. And I know a lot of their interview with him is going to be surrounding his opinion on Ed Choice.
Oh, one other thing, Matt, I did meet with Bill, and he said he would like to come to one of our board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So I said sometime in March we'll get him, to come, and then he can further talk,
Right.
down the road what's going on,
Mhm.
because I'm sure it'll change.
Daily.
Yeah.
Next agenda item is Butler Tech update.
Yeah, Mark, I'd like to bring up Dave Fox. He's our instructor with Butler Tech in the precision machining, and he's got a couple of students with him.
Hi, I'm Dave Fox. I'm the precision machine instructor. And before we start, I would like to say what precision machining is. It is metal cutting, not metal fabricating. We don't weld. We don't do all that kind of stuff. We measure, we cut, we use high-tech computerized machines, and it's been very productive for the students and myself lately. Some things that we set up, some goals that we had set in the last couple of years to make my program a top-notch program. I'm going to read to you, but I want to look around this room real quick, and I want to say thanks to a lot of people that have stood behind me and the program and had the vision with me, and just this program has just exploded in the last couple of years. And I see Jack back there, Jack Fisher, been supporting me. Susan Smith's been supporting me for all these years. I look up here, Mr. and Mrs. Detzel at all my meetings. I love to have that. Mr. Bowling comes to all my meetings, Mr. Yater. All you people have made this program what it is. And when I say support, just coming to a meeting and showing these kids what's going on. We have an open house, and I see these people here. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the kids. So I do appreciate the way our administration system has got behind me. And I should have said Dustin. When you were there, you were always there behind me too, so I do appreciate all that. So some of the goals we had set are to form a large advisory committee. Advisory committees are businesses that come to help us out with different things and donate financially and other stuff like that. But our advisory committee went from 8 to about 50 now. And these people actually are actively involved. They come up and they support us. They don't just sit there and say, oh yeah, we're part of the team. No, they are there helping us every day. The next part was getting the best students that we could get. And I'm nailing AP students like these two up here that are great students all the way around. I'm going to let them tell you about themselves in a little bit. But we also were looking for parents to get involved. And I see two parents out there right now that are very much involved. So the Kelly family sitting there. We have parents that have gone on PBS for me and spoke there. People have talked to the media for me. People have come in and talked to other parents about the program. So we got parents that are actively involved now. We were looking to fill the class all the way. We were averaging around 15 to 18 students. Now, in the last 3 years, we've had a waiting list. And we actually accepted more than the class allows, but I'm glad we did that because we're been able to really help a lot of these kids. The next was employ the students. The other day we had an open house, and we had about 100 employers there offering probably 100 jobs to, well, we probably have more job offers than that, and I'm going to let them fill you in about their situation with job offers. We updated the shop, and this was the advisory board, the administrator, and everybody getting behind us. This was a big one. We made the shop. We took it from the 1980s into the year 2020. We are right on the cutting edge right now. We have software coming in every day. Companies that sell computer software for $15,000 will sell it to us for $250. It's been amazing. The other day after the open house, which you guys are at, right the next day I got a call from a company called Track Mill and said, we'd like to support your program. We're going to donate two $50,000 machines. That'll be in March. So stuff like that keeps happening because it keeps growing. They see all these businesses being involved. And over the last, I'd say 3 years, I'm going to say we've had financially and machinery-wise probably about $400,000 donated to us. Clippard Industries, we were moving the machines. They sent their maintenance department over. That's 5 guys, all former students too, by the way, for 1 whole week to move the machines in and out. And they volunteered to do the electricity for us too, but didn't meet that. They're not true electricians, so that we couldn't let them do it. But they send everybody they can. $10,000 checks. It's a good feeling when somebody walks up. Ryan Stahl just said, here, $10,000 check, puts it in my hand. I love days like that. It's pretty awesome. Pretty much don't buy much anymore. Everything's been donated to the program. So we get a budget, but we don't need the budget. But I'll keep taking the budget, but we don't really need it. Some other things we've done. The students are all starting to go through the program, get their jobs, and then they're starting to go to college, which I encourage. I sit there and I say, guys, yeah, this is a great job, but keep trying to enhance your education so someday you can be the boss, and kids are following through with that. We have a summer camp now. We're getting 5th graders through 9th graders involved into summer camp, and it's our 3rd year for it, and last year we had 20 5th through 9th graders coming in the summer and learning machine shop stuff, which has been a lot of fun. We also have companies donating money to us just for scholarships for kids. Last year we gave out $5,000 of Haas money to some students. We had 3 going to school. Some were playing sports, and they weren't Division I sports, so they needed some extra money to go. They got grants and they got stuff like that. But Haas stepped up and we bought some kids brand new computers, donated 3 computers that we gave them $2,000 and said, here you go. And it was kind of nice. Those kids were very appreciative of that. And now the businesses are stepping in and paying for 100% of the college too. The only problem is they do want you to commit to their company, so it's up to the student. Some of the neat things that happened to the class, I'm going to drop some names here, is we got invited over the summer to a place, and an astronaut named Brian Duffy, I don't know, he's been in space 2 times. He was there to meet our students. And it was a summertime thing. It was nice that the kids came out. We got invited to that. The president of NIMS, which is National Institute of Metalworking Science, flew in for 1 day just to attend one of our meetings. And he left Washington, D.C., got here, went to the meeting, and left and went back. And that was a really neat event for us. People that are supporting us that are kind of neat is Cindy Abrams. As soon as she got the job, she showed up and walked through the shop, real neat. Bill Blessing's been to multiple events for us, which is great. Warren Davidson's been to multiple things, toured the class, met us over at Ryan Stahl. Steve Shappitz walked through the class, which was a neat event. Rob Portman's been with us for 3 events. He was with the astronaut, and that was at Metal X, by the way. They're building rockets that are going to Mars. That's why that was kind of happening there, but we got invited to it. He's also met us over at Ryan Stahl a few times. And, of course, last year, everybody probably remembers Betsy DeVos, or DeVos, however you said it, Secretary of Education was there for our signing day. As our kids were going on to their jobs, they signed a fake letter of intent and took their jobs at their new companies full time. So that was really neat. Some of the other things that happened to the class, we've appeared in the Northwest Press, which we're happy about that, the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Cincinnati.com, TechMagazine.com, PBS did a special on one of our kids, ProductionMachining.com, Channel 5, 9, 12 have all been through the shop for my open house, Industrial Connection, and the big one last year was the Wall Street Journal did a piece on one of our kids, which was really neat. So, proud of the program. It's going great. We want to keep it rolling this way. But we also, the support system we get here and the great students that we're getting, I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about their experiences with the class. And I'm going to turn it over to Danny Knetch. He's a senior this year, great student in the program.
Yes, my name is Daniel Connect. Dave Fox came into one of my classrooms when I was a sophomore, and he introduced the program, and at that point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. You know, I just kind of assumed I'd waste my money on a business degree in college. But, you know, his program piqued my interest. I gave it a shot. So all my junior year, I worked through that. At the open house of that year, I got a few job offers, you know, networked with some companies. Actually ended up going to the Skills USA state competition for that. That was a good time. And then I actually ended up choosing a company, Setco Precision. I worked with them all through the summer and the first half of the school year. Cleared over $12,000 or more, you know, just working, you know, got to go through all aspects of the manufacturing process, everything from getting the material in the door to cutting it and, you know, inspecting it and sending it out. So that was very influential in what I want to do when I grow up. So nearing the end of my time there, before I started back for track season, I went down to the engineering department, and that's where I really found my calling. So I'm actually already committed to the University of Cincinnati in their engineering program, and actually already have the Cincinnati Century grant. So that's very exciting for me. So yeah, this is just a very, very great program. It gives people initiative and drive in something that they wouldn't originally think they would enjoy.
You're going to work part-time at Setco while you're going to college.
Yes, that as well.
So, yeah, they want to lock him into a big deal, but he definitely wants to keep his options open. He hears about the co-ops going to Hawaii and Nashville and all the fun places. So he's going to work part-time and figure out what he wants to do with that kind of stuff. He's been a great student too, by the way. And wow, you get students like this, you sound like a great teacher. Thank you, Danny. My next one is Mitchell Kelly.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Kelly. I'm a junior in Mr. Fox's precision machining program. Through the program, I received an internship or a co-op with the company Rhinestall over the summer, and I've learned a lot through both the company and Mr. Fox's class. I've received several other job offers through the Skills USA competition with this class, where we show off what we've learned with a lot of manual and even some CNC programs. These companies, most of them will pay for 100% of your college, which is really helpful. I really like the class. I like making things. It's cool just to be able to make pretty much anything you want to. So, and the class teaches you a lot from it.
You were mentioning to me what kind of stuff you were making at Rhinestall.
Oh yeah, at the Rhinestall, like I would make stuff that goes on battleships and goes out into the ocean to actually use, which is pretty cool. So.
So in closing, thank you, and thanks for the great support from everybody up here and back there. And couldn't do it without you guys and the great parents in the Coleraine Northwest Local School District. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, do I get the ball thrown? Shake everybody's hand.
I just had a quick comment. It was amazing walking into these open house. And when he talks about 100 employers, I mean, these guys are focused. I talked to one employer, and what she was telling me, she said, you know, these are high school kids, and you would think they would get flustered when they know these companies are staring at them and the pressure of, am I going to get offered a job? And she was so impressed that they didn't. They were just so focused on the task they were doing. And I think the key in what Danny said was choosing. He gets to choose. These kids are choosing which job they take because they're getting offered multiple jobs. And Dave, you do a fantastic. I mean, you can just tell by the enthusiasm with Dave presenting how much he loves what he's doing. And I know Donnie behind him in construction is the same thing. You walk in these classes, and no wonder these kids are so successful. It's when they have the instructors that they have. And it's so far past what vocational programs used to be, and the career tech way, and these kids that are going on to college and working and getting their classes paid for. I mean, it's amazing. So we love when you come and you present to us, and hopefully with this being on TV, there's people at home that see this, and there'll be some 5th graders or 6th graders that come to your camp and get the bug too. So congratulations to both of you, but to everybody in your classes.
Next, we'll move into reports from organizations. Are there any reports from certificated or licensed employees? No? Any reports from classified employees? Any reports from any school-related organizations? I received one community comment from Jernice Worsham. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Great. You can come up to the podium. Good. Good evening. Good.
I'm a little nervous because I never did it before. But I just want to state that I live in the Northwest Local School District, and I'm a parent, and I'm concerned about the walkers of the school district to and from school. There's no sidewalks, and I'm just concerned about their safety. So I was wondering if there's something we can do, or try and get more buses out there to pick them up, or vans, or something like that.
What school in particular are you speaking?
Pretty much all of them.
Oh, okay.
That have walkers, because there's no sidewalks out there. And if something happened, then, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Todd, are you going to have an update on that?
I do not have an update. I can address what currently is going on if you'd like me to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Chris McHugh is our business director, meets on a bi-weekly basis with Colerain Township. We are working with the Colerain Township trustees on sidewalks. As a school district, we cannot pay for sidewalks that are not located on our school property. So we are not allowed to purchase and put sidewalks in for other folks. But Jeff Mills has been working closely with us and the trustees on trying to secure grants. They have $300,000 currently in sidewalk funds, which will not go very far. Sidewalks are a lot more expensive than you thought. But we are also working on getting lights installed at a crosswalk situation on Kemper Road that goes to PRE. Right now we're paying for a cop, and we need to get the crosswalk in there and the lights in there. We have another section that's been brought to our attention on Springdale Road by Colerain Elementary, so we are looking into that. So what happens there is anytime you want a sidewalk or a crosswalk, you have to petition Hamilton County. They ask you to do a survey and a traffic study for the crossing lights. We did that. We got a recommendation. We needed it. So now we are talking to the township to see if they're willing to put in the lights or at least go in on the cost with us, because it is a community issue of crossing a road and not just a school district issue. So they have prioritized. They have a sidewalk committee, Chris, that I believe is looking. They have the top 5 or 6 sidewalks identified because they know it does become a township issue and their responsibility. In terms of us adding more buses, that's always the board's decision. But even with the passage of the levy, we are currently making $2.4 million in reductions, even with the levy passing, because we're still spending more than we are taking in from state taxes. So we continue to make reductions, and we continue to make cuts, which is personnel, which affect our kids. So that's where we currently are with the sidewalks, and we are in communication with them. We do have committees, and we are working on them.
So you don't know when the high school's going to put transportation back?
High school, there are no plans for high school to put transportation back. We have not had high school transportation for 20 years, I believe. The board would have to recommend if they wanted that. That's not something we're looking at right now.
Okay, that's something I can think about, because I have a walker next year, and I'm concerned for her safety, but especially up and down Roosevelt, because they drive too crazy up and down Roosevelt, and she's going to be going northwest next year.
Yeah, and Roosevelt has no sidewalks, I believe is what you're talking about, until she gets up to Pippin Road.
Right.
And then we have a cop that crosses them out of that subdivision across there, so if she could just get up Roosevelt. But there is a cop at that intersection that takes them up beside Northwest High School.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the only comment card that I've received, so we'll move to certified retirements and resignations.
Yes, the first item is certified retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or question? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is classified retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Motion passes 5-0. The next item.
Good evening. First, we'd like to ask the board to approve, dispense with reading of and approve the organizational minutes as listed.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or changes to the meeting minutes? That motion passes 5-0 as well.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the budget hearing minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments or changes to the meeting minutes? Motion passes 5-0.
I'd like to also ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the regular meeting minutes from January 8th as listed.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Are there any changes or questions or comments about the regular meeting minutes? Passes 5-0.
I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the work session minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes to the work session retreat meeting minutes? Motion passes 5-0.
Financial report for the month of December. Our all funds balance was a little over 42 million. Our general fund unreserved balance was a little over 24 million. Our revenues for year to date are at 42 million, which is about 46% through the year. And the reason that's a little low for halfway through the year is, if you remember, our levy, we get taxes are on a calendar year basis, so we receive the first half taxes in January and February, so we'll get half of our levy in the current fiscal year. Our expenditures were about 46 million for the year, or about 48%, because we spend most of our special needs purchase services through our grant funds, federal grant funds first, before we tap into our general fund. Our investment weighted average return is 1.96, and this is starting to decrease. We were up to about 2.5%, and now we're down to 1.96 as the Feds continue to cut rates. And for our list of monthly bills, we have our routine monthly bills, as well as we have payments for our investigator, band uniforms, the Colerain Middle School gym floor, the Montford Heights HVAC controls, some Chromebooks, the Northwest High School parking lot, and some software. So with that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the financial report for the month of December.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions about any of the fiscal items that Amy Wells has presented? Motion passes 5-0.
Next, we have our then and now certificates for over $3,000. We have 3 of them. 2 of them were from our non-public schools, and 1 was to pay Mount Healthy to transport our homeless students. So I recommend the board approve those 3 invoices to be paid.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions about the then and now certificates? Motion passes 5-0.
Finally, I'd like to ask the board to accept, approve the fund, and appropriate the grants for two grants that we received. We have a school safety grant for the district of about $38,000 and a 3D printer grant for Strugel's Printer Club for $450. With that, I'd like to ask the board to accept the grants, approve the funds, and appropriate to spend the grants.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions about the grants?
Thank you.
Next item is a general business item. It is donations to Northwest Local School District. Myers is donating $1425 gift cards totaling $350 to Colerain Elementary for classroom supplies. So we appreciate that very much. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education accept the donation to the Northwest Local School District as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Move in second. Any questions? We want to thank Meyer, corporate sponsor. We appreciate all that they do for us.
Next item is vendor contracts. Superintendent and Treasurer recommend this Board of Education approve the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions about vendor contracts? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel items. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions about certificated or licensed personnel? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel items. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions about classified personnel? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is curriculum and instruction. It is the 2020-2021 program of studies for high school. This was presented as information at the January meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2020-2021 high school program of studies as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions about the program of studies? Great document. Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is the 2020-2021 Credit Flexibility Handbook for the high school. It was presented as information at the January Board of Education meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2020-2021 Credit Flexibility Handbook as listed.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any questions, comments about curriculum instruction? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is the 2020-2021 new high school courses. They were presented as information in January. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the 2020-2021 high school courses as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments about the new high school courses? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is from Student Services. It is the school year 2020-2021 school calendar. It was presented as information at the January board meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the calendar as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions about the 2021 year calendar? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is a general business item. It is our fiscal year 21 summer permanent improvement projects. This is funds that are set aside for our PI projects and has to be used accordingly. So this is for information as you look them over. If you have any questions, please let us know. And Chris McKee will gladly get a hold of you and let you know exactly what's going on. Or if you get questions from the public, let us know.
Great, thank you.
I have a couple.
Yes.
On that. So, kind of what was brought up to our attention this evening, this is sidewalks on our school property. That's under our purview and what we undertake. My question is, Colerain High School, so it's sidewalks that are already there, that are in disrepair, that need repair?
Correct.
Has there been any discussion, because I know a few years back, there was the lines drawn on the, asphalt was extended for the walkway from Cheviot to the school. Has there been any investigation or discussion on a sidewalk from Pool to the high school?
So they're not walking up the blacktop road? I'm just trying to...
Right, yeah. So, yeah, because currently there's a sidewalk that's now connects, the neighborhood in the middle school and the high school. But once you get to the high school on Pool Road, then you're walking on the asphalt driveway. Along with.
take a look at that and price it out.
Okay.
We could also look at something similar, Chris, that was done at Taylor Elementary with the line that went up through that is a clear walking spot where you could prep for walkers.
Right.
And it would just be bringing it right into the attention of drivers because they do walk. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is dark as they come up that back road.
Right.
It's a good point. But yes, on our property, we could definitely look at that and price that out. Yes.
Thank you.
I also wanted to bring, we have sidewalks also on here for White Oak Middle School. If you've ever gone up by that curve, it's falling apart, and so you might step, so that's why the sidewalks are being replaced there. But like Matt said, it's because they're on our property.
And was it Taylor on there as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? The next item is a student service item. It is for information. It is harassment, intimidation, bullying, first semester 1920 summary. Dustin, you want to come on up? Dustin is in charge of student services.
Good evening once again. Just want to draw your attention to the document that's there. As always, a point of conversation with our parents and anyone who else is watching. If they're having issues peer-to-peer to fill out that form, it's set into a more formal status for our principals to take action on. What I want to also encourage you to do is don't take note of low numbers as concerning or high numbers as concerning. It's all about the willingness of a parent to fill out the document at the point of conversation. Our principals, I hear very often are taking on those issues right at the phone call, right at the initial contact with their parent. But I do want to encourage them to continue to push that form and for our parents to continue to fill that out. A lot of times it becomes redundant because I'm talking to the principal about the issue. Why would I need to fill out the form? I would just tell you that the form kind of puts things into a formal perspective, especially around any type of repeat mistreatment. And so once again, if you're out there and you're having issues with your student and other students, fill out that form so we can take action on that. Not that we wouldn't take action without the form, but it kind of puts it in that formal status. I want to offer a time for any questions that you might have about the process in which we handle mistreatment.
Oh, Dustin, that link is on the website, on all there's a link that they can go to,
Yes,
correct?
there's a link on the website and on Facebook that they can actually type into a document.
Mhm.
That it's a Google form that then alerts me immediately as soon as they fill it out. So there's a way to type it, you can write it, we can get it to you any way that you wish.
Great. And then at the beginning of the year, are the parents educated as to where this is and the process?
So I would say at any open house during the principal communication, there's going to be discussion about how to handle problems and where to find those types
Great.
of things. We could always do a little bit more around maybe an email blast from us to say, hey, just a reminder, this is here. We certainly can always look at that.
Great. Thank you.
You waited until I walked away. Nice move.
Well, he was getting your walk count.
Got you a couple more steps.
I was looking at your pedometer, you're short just a couple.
I was waiting for you to sit down.
All right, for my update, I have the following, as has been discussed with Ed Choice. I've been invited by the School Board Association and the BASA Association, which is superintendents, to speak tomorrow in Columbus at a news conference at 11 o'clock. So we will continue our news conference and trying to get the word out about why Ed Choice has the possibility to do damage to public school funding. I would also invite the entire board, and if you're all going to come, all we do would announce it, but next Friday, this coming Friday at 11 o'clock at the Butler County Educational Service Center, we will be doing another public presentation to the media. You're all invited. Last time, when Matt and I were there, we stood behind and then speakers made statements to the media. So that is Friday. So
What time on Friday?
11 o'clock at Butler County Educational Service Center. So right now, we have two versions that have been presented. One is Senate Bill 89 and one is House Bill 9. In terms of what the House passed on February 5th, which is what Jim was talking about, Senate Bill 89, they are transitioning to an income-based scholarship that is being called the Buckeye Scholarship, which takes all the funding away from public schools, does not take our funding, does not affect us. The concern we have there is that money has to come from somewhere. So we've already been flat funded for 2 years. We cannot stand to be flat funded as we continue to move forward. Inflation occurs for everyone sitting in this room with your jobs and purchases you make. We have inflation cost also. So that's an important piece. The other one they had, which was the Friday before it was due, was House Bill 9. It was a short-term solution that would have reduced the number of Ed Choice buildings from 1,227 to 425. And what that was doing was basically changing the way schools were put on the Ed Choice list. So what we are now going to ask for is that they support Senate Bill 89. Like Jim said, 82-7. It's really clear what the House is in agreement on. The problem is right now they're bumping heads with the Senate. And the Senate has been very negative about their recommendation. It goes back to the day prior to February 1st when the House made their recommendation and then got up and left because of weather. And then the adults up there in the Senate didn't like that and were basically mad that the House left without a final solution. We don't have time to be mad at adults. We need a solution for public schools. It is not fair to subsidize private parochial schools with public school monies. Yes, this is not a complaint about private schools and public or parochial schools. We have great school choice in our community, but you cannot fund them by taking our public school dollars. And that's the part we're fighting for. So we're going to send out more communication that needs to go out, but what we're asking is that whatever they do, because we really don't know what they're going to do right now, is to back Senate Bill 89, which the House passed 282-7, but also make sure whatever they do that we reduce the number of buildings on the eligibility list to the lowest number possible and or totally eliminate the performance-based Ed Choice Scholarship Program for the 2020-21 school year. And beyond, as state policymakers continue to identify the best way to transition the state to an income-based scholarship. So the one way they can negatively impact us there is change the 200% poverty rate to 300, 350, or 400%. What that does is it will cost each school district more money. So again, we go back to Senate Bill 89 where it takes it out. And remember, the original intent of school choice was to make sure that children who lived in poverty
that they had the same rights and opportunities to pay to go to a parochial or private school as anybody else. That because they were in poverty, it should not limit their choice of school. It never had anything in the beginning to do with failing schools. This was something that was snuck in at the last minute by the Senate, and some deals were made that got more ed choice money for the taxpayers who send their kids to parochial schools, is the bottom line of what this is. The other thing they asked us to do is to continue to advance efforts to promote the fair funding language that would provide an equal playing field related to the foundation formula, funding at least at the same levels parochial private schools receive outside of any state vouchers. Lastly, insist that all schools, both public and private, be held to the same level of accountability standards. So, for example, our teachers have to be certified. If they don't meet certification, we get dinged on our state report card. You do not have to have certification in a parochial private school. They try to hire them, but you don't have to. Secondly, we accept any and all kids because all kids deserve an education. It is not that way at private and parochial schools. If you have a student with disability and they cannot meet the needs of the IEP, the kid is not allowed to enter. If you take a test and you cannot score high enough on the test, the kid is not allowed to enter. If you look at test results, you go to Ohio Department of Education, type in private school test scores, you'll see that they're at a 30 and 40% passage rate for reading and math and not doing very well. So if they want to take our funds, then let's make sure they have a report card, and let's make sure they take the same state test that our kids do. And that's every year. The amount of testing is ridiculous, and it has to change. So that's why we're fighting Ed Choice. That's why we continue to fight this battle. They have 60 days to get this done. They're meeting. So tomorrow, I go on and talk to the press around 11 with 5 other folks. And then at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening is the first time we can address the Senate. So some of us are staying for that. And then there's hearings Wednesday night at 5, Thursday night at 5, and they just continue on. We don't think it's going to settle anytime new, but the best thing we could do is call the senators, tell them you support House Bill 89 that keeps public funding where it is. Not that we're happy where it is, because again, we just had to pass the 7.5 mil levy, and we still are making reductions because they are not funding schools fairly. So as much as you can do will be greatly appreciated. So any questions on that before I go to a couple other things?
When I was up there last week, I made that same comment. Look, we just passed a 7.5 mil levy to Representative Cupp, Patterson. We were in his office talking. I said, you're going to devastate our district if we have to lay out $4 to $4.5 million after we just passed a 7.5 mil levy in November. And you know, they seem receptive, but we'll see when they get together.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch all of this on Ohio Government Channel. It's all live when they go in a debate. And some of them really get it, and they understand what it's about. But there is that push where they want this graded system because it qualifies more schools. Where if you just go to the Buckeye Scholarship, which doesn't affect public schools, then it doesn't affect our funding. So that's why our push is there. Secondly, I'd like to thank you for your flexibility in being able to change the date and time of tonight's meetings. I know we had some work issues that brought up. What Daryl and I are appreciative of is by having the meeting tonight, I know we can't have it any later because some of you have other commitments, we're able to pay our employees because today's the 10th. So that helped a lot by changing this time. So if folks are wondering why the 5 o'clock, it was a 5 o'clock meeting, and then some people said, well, why did it go to 4:30? Well, we had executive session, so all you did was change the start time. All following the guidelines of Robert's rules and doing what we're supposed to do but it is appreciated. On top of that, our February work session, I'll need to get a hold of you with some dates because some of you have some conflicts with that. So we will put that February work session date out, and we'll let you know more about that as we go forward. So please look for that as we go forward. That's all I got.
Next, are there any community comments in relation to any of the topics that we spoke of this evening? And board member comments. Joe?
I have none.
Yeah. Jim?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Susan Smith, the principal at Northwest High School. We had a reception. She got together with the Alumni Association at Northwest,
And the first principal at Northwest High School, Dr. Charles Kern, he was there from 1972 to 79, and he had passed away last year. And his family came back, his wife and his kids, and there was a bunch of us, well, not a bunch, but a few of us that were in school at that time, and he was the principal. And it's good getting to talk to her and her kids and that stuff, and talking about everything that went on 45 years ago.
Love that, everything else.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I just wanted to, Susan, thank you. It was a great reception, and appreciate that in your time.
Then my only comment is I appreciate the rest of the board's flexibility in having the earlier meeting tonight. There wasn't any other purpose other than I do have another engagement at 7 p.m. and thankfully we're done in time. I still gave them the heads up that I had a meeting prior, and if this was to run longer, then I'll get there when I get there. But I appreciate everybody that came to the meeting, that came earlier, and a lot of those people are gone. Their patience for us going at 4:30 to executive session and then returning. I appreciate that. Thank you. As always, all of us board members have emails. We're available that way, along with administration. The emails are all on the website. Be found there. That's all I have.
Okay. Actually, Matt said a few things that I was going to say, but it looks like we have quite a few students in the audience, and just want to welcome you to the meeting. And if you have any questions for any board members, if you want to ask after the meeting or email us, please know you can do so at any time. And we love seeing you out there, so feel free to come back. Thank you.
First, I just want to congratulate the outstanding educators that were presented tonight. Last week, I got to spend some time in Moffett Heights Elementary. Got to be secret reader and rode a bus for a shift, and got to kind of get into the weeds of the education. And a lot of times, I think we get caught up in the difficulties of public education, and we don't really take time to appreciate the blessings. And seeing the teachers, I've said in my 2 going on 3 years on the board that teachers have a different heart. The fact that they show up every day and genuinely love, care, nurture, and discipline our kids for things that may be lacked from their home life, and they do it every day lovingly and willingly. I give them a shout out for that. I want to thank Ms. Worsham for coming up and speaking. I know that you seemed a little nervous. You did a great job. We always appreciate community comments, always. So feel free to, if while you're out you see an area that you feel is exceptionally bad, please bring it to our attention, because we are very receptive to hearing that. And lastly, just to kind of dovetail what I was just saying, the meeting change was my fault, because I started a new job last week, and I was out of town on training, so we had to move that. So I apologize for any inconvenience. There are no conspiracy theories that I've seen on social media. It was just a scheduling conflict. That's all it was. I want to challenge people to shut the negative comments on social media down. There are more blessings in our district than there are negativities. So please take an opportunity to share the blessings with everybody. And with that, that's all I have. And at this point, we will call for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. And the motion passes 5-0. Thank you all for coming.